We were talking earlier about this project called Black Wealth 2020. So there was a study that had came out. I forgot who published it, but you guys can Google it. And they talked about how black wealth is going to go to zero by 2053. I don't know if you guys remember that. That came out prior to the pandemic.
You remember that, Jackie?
Yeah, so we could
zero.
Yeah, we could Google it. So
money conversations, we've been making business moves, contemplating how to get it, need to get in tune. Different topics, we got options, you could pick and choose. If more income ain't the outcome, gotta switch the mood. We tryna help you to improve, thanks for asking. Road to riches, speak on broker days and past tense. Wealthy habits, lately I just wanna stack chips. Took a risk and we've been running up a bag since. G-Vast Quest, quick to make a couple G's. Detox, spitting knowledge, put you on your feet. Bug out, got the plate, make sure to pray before you eat. At the table with the winners, come and take a seat.
Yeah, we are back. This is the Thanks for Asking podcast show. And today we got a special guest with us, Southside alumni. She's doing a lot of groundwork. She's doing a lot of things for the community. You know, and I'm proud that she's one of us. Thank you for all your efforts into the community.
Thank you for having me.
You know, even though it may not seem like it's paying off, it really is. And, you know, this is why I wanted to bring you here so people can see what it looks like to do hard work, which, you know, it can be anybody. You know, you don't have to be Jay-Z. You don't have to be Beyonce. You don't have to be Rihanna, anybody like that to make a change in the society.
Right.
You know, with that said, I want to introduce Miss Latoya Benjamin. Can I get a round of applause?
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No doubt. Shout out to Bug Out and G. They had some business to attend to. We got my lovely sister.
Shout out to family.
We got my boy over here. Introduce yourself.
I'm B. What's going on?
All right,
Got
B.
my man B. He's a sculptor. You know what I'm saying? Black excellence in here.
That's right.
Just so
Awesome.
you know. So, Latoya, she was the vice chairperson of planning in the black community at American Planning Association. She has skills in economic development, specifically concentrating in Southside Jamaica, Queens, thankfully. Somebody got to do it.
Okay.
You ran for political office in 2020 and 2021, so we're going to get into that for sure. And you received your master's from Brooklyn College, and you graduated from John Adams.
Yep. High school.
I wanted to say August Martin, but, you know.
Adams.
We'll take Adams. The first thing I want to talk about, break down the science of economics.
Science of economics. I call economics is just basically the production and consumption of goods and services.
Period. Supply and demand and stuff like that. And
where you're producing something or you're consuming something.
Mm-hmm. How'd you get involved in that? Like, how did your passion grow for that?
Yeah, so, you know, it starts from being here, you know, growing up here in Southside. You know, my parents, you know, split up when I was young. So I saw two aspects of life. You know, I grew up on this side with my mom here on, you know, 147 across the street from the buildings. And then my dad owned a property in St. Albans.
Oh,
and even though this is still
right,
so it's still Southeast Queens, but Southside is a little different from.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely different.
Even though it's like about 2 miles up.
Yeah, like a 2-minute drive or something like that.
Something like that. So even the supermarkets, you know, we used to go to, this used to be called Big R.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember it was Big R. God, man, you bringing it back.
So Big R supermarket looked a lot different from Key Food on Linden Boulevard.
Yeah.
And I never understood that. And so in growing up here, you know, we got into some trouble, you know, growing up as a kid, saw, you know, during the time when they were stop and frisk, and the cops used to come up the block, throw the guys on the floor or off the wall, going in their pants, things like that. I never understood the dynamics of our community.
Yeah.
And as I started to grow and I started to go to school and educate myself, I realized if we had better economic opportunities, then we would be able to fix up our community, and I wouldn't see a lot of things that I saw. So I chose economics as a vehicle for us to solve our solutions, like, you know, and make our lived experience better.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. What does the chairperson do of the position you was elected to? What does that consist of?
So I'm a part of a trade association of urban planners, the American Planning Association. It's a national organization of urban planners all across the country, and they have just these different amazing chapters. So, planners they focus on planning, like different type of planning, and I think it's an amazing skill set to just understand the market, understand how infrastructure works. When you think about even how they decide on to build the roads.
Yeah.
Someone has to design that and plan that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a part. I wanted to know how decisions are made, and I wanted to be a part of the people that made those decisions.
How are them decisions made? I want to know. Like I've never thought of that.
Yeah, so I mean, different levels, right? And that's going back to government. Like, I studied government because I wanted to understand how things work. So I have my master's in policy because I used to ask all these questions. I was like, why are things like this and why are things like that? And he's like, well, that's the way it is. I said, well, that's the rules. Everybody wants to talk about rules. I'm like
rules. It's been there the whole
so
time. Somebody had to make these rules.
Who made the rules? I'm like, well, policy makes the rules. I said, well, let me write the policy.
Yeah.
I want to create the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's how I kind of got involved in government, and I started volunteering for the congressman. I started volunteering. I was going to school studying and stuff, and so and that's how I started to learn how government work, how political power work, and how those decisions are made at the city, state, and federal level.
So, you've got years of experience. Give us a tidbit of how government works in a real world way. Like, we know that the president's supposed to do something, the governor and the, politicians. Like, what does that look like in the real world when they're implementing their legislation and stuff like that, or their policies?
Yeah, so there's so many different ways I could answer that. For example, the city, folks, like, just because we live in an urban community. So HRA, for example, is a city agency. So if you know people that get Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, that all of that is administered through HRA, which is a city agency. There's a city council, right? Each district, we have 51 districts in New York City. So there's a city council representative for each 51 districts. That specific council member, if you have a specific issue with that particular municipality, say you're having an issue with your caseworker, or you're not getting your food stamps, or you're not getting certain resources from that particular agency, you can call your city council person who oversees that agency, and they can advocate on your behalf or help you navigate that process if you're having challenges. And that's what I think government is supposed to help the people, right? But I think we've been like so disconnected, or just have such disbelief in it, and rightfully so. We've seen a lot of things happen, right? Unfortunately, when we look at the COVID pandemic, right? COVID happened. The government put mandates and decided when you can go to work and what you can do and things like that. So that's a real example of what government can do.
Do you remember a point where you seen it work positively for somebody in our community, where like they came up to one of the politicians? Because it seemed like I don't know if you've worked with some politicians from time to time, but have you ever seen that affect us in a positive way before?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what, I love what I do. There's been times, and it's actually the people, right? It's really it's the staff, it's the people that work in these offices. I can tell you firsthand, I know I've helped a lot of people, whether it was, them helping small businesses get access to capital, helping them get information about how to build their nonprofits, as simple as advocating for seniors when their mortgage goes into foreclosure, putting programs together. One of the things that we were working on, we were talking earlier about this project called Black Wealth 2020. So there was a study that had came out. I forgot who published it, but you guys can Google it. And they talked about how Black wealth is going to go to zero by 2053. I don't know if you guys remember that. That came out prior to the
No,
pandemic.
you remember that, Jackie?
Yeah, so we could like
Zero. What do you mean
yeah,
zero?
we could Google it. So like yeah, so
I could believe it. I recently read an article about the black community losing $1 billion a year because of black male unemployment. And the unemployment rate is high because of the degree requirement. And only 24% of black folks have that 4-year degree, which shuts them out of employment and which leaves the rest of the population, 74%, in low-wage jobs. If we're not putting money in, it's how can we receive? So if we're losing $1 billion a year, I could only imagine in 30 more years, that's $30 billion lost in one community alone off of one factor, unemployment.
Damn.
yeah, that's pretty deep. So if you think about the last time black people had zero wealth in this country, what position were we in? Slavery. So that's not a good thing, right? That's a multi-layered conversation, right? So there was a sense of urgency for us to and of course, you know, we're not living in the civil rights movement, right? We're past that particular time. So there's really no reason why we should be talking about black wealth going to zero. So the Black Wealth 2020 project was an initiative that was launched by the state elected official here. And the goal was to organize the community in private sector and public sector around 3 specific industries, with small business, home ownership, and banking. So we just focus on those 3 industries that we can create wealth in our community.
Because a lot of wealth in America is based on real estate for the most part. Correct. Yeah.
Ownership. And so we had an opportunity to work on that. We organized the community and small business owners. We were getting a lot of success. We were working with the state legislature, trying to find out different programs and incentives to start another bank. There was another gentleman here in Cambridge Heights that's looking to start a federal credit union. They needed to raise $250,000 in liquid in order to do the application and everything. And so they've been working on that for a long time, and then the pandemic hit.
Damn. And that just dried everything up.
And things after the pandemic is not getting better. People are less inept to even go through education institutions because of the pandemic. One of the directors in LaGuardia Community College said during the pandemic, there were a lot of quick fixes. There was a lot of jobs willing to pay you a lot of money to do things.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic is lifted, we go back to being exploited on the other side, where we're going to be given less because that money is soon gone. And we're starting to see it. The New York Times just posted an article about exploitation and working, people not being paid a decent wage to live. And we're going back into that space.
Right. So inequity is real, right? So and it's historical, it's ancestral in a lot of ways. And
I feel like it's in your DNA type shit where it's pathological
epigenetic
and psychological, you know what I'm saying? Like
Epigenics is real. I just read something on that too, how the Great Depression changed the minds of people. They are currently studying us to see how the pandemic has changed our minds. Epigenetics is when social situations change the genetics of folks. We've seen that with the pandemic. It changes how people live. People became hoarders. You remember how they had to get gas on opposite days? Think about how that affected your grandparents. I remember Audre Lorde said her grandmother used to stand on the line to get free food. And they used to give her coffee. She used to take the coffee, put it in a tin, and just save it. She was just getting it just to get it because she never knew when they were going to go through that again. It changes your mind. It changes how we look at our children. All of our kids want to be YouTubers because what was the banging thing during the pandemic?
content creation.
And now we oversaturated and the money is going down because of oversaturation.
Well, I like to add a perspective to that. I think, and this is part of the work that we do, and I think we have to be prepared for. So the pandemic has pushed us into what they're calling new world order, right? We heard that word in different scenarios,
Yeah.
but that's what, you could Google any,
Yeah.
economists, and they talk about this. And so we have to be prepared for the fourth industrial economy, right? Which is where we're merging into technologies. We already see how technology is taking over different industries,
Yeah.
fast food, restaurants. So now we just got to play a game of we're living in a time of innovation. So what do we consider innovation? Innovation is something a little bit new and a little bit different. So now the challenge is for people to reimagine what their skill sets are,
Become flexible.
right?
Yeah.
And adopt with those changes. If you don't understand technology and like what you guys are doing, right? Like you have this is awesome. It's a perfect example of fourth economy business.
Yeah.
Like, you're a barbershop, but also a podcast,
Thank
right?
you
So
for
you got
tuning it up.
this is what I'm talking about. This is the future,
Yeah.
right? It's no longer just like the standard one thing. You have woven in a service into a technology platform.
Yeah, because the message isn't given out the same way no more. It's not on TV no more. It's, I look at my children. They don't look at TV. They look at YouTube. And not the YouTube you would think where it's like, they don't watch what I watch. Like there's a whole, they'll watch a kid sitting in front of a screen playing a video game, talking crap all day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he's getting a bankroll.
See, and that's my thing. The gaming industry is booming, So going back to like what economics is, that's why I just keep it simple. It's just basic production and consumption of goods and services. And what I talk about to our community about is how do we flip that? We know Black people and minorities are large consumers. How do we become more producers of the things we consume? So when our children are sitting in front of these games and playing, they know those games like the back of their hand.
Yeah.
Whose children going to be the next one to make the new Nintendo or the new I'm not clearly, so I don't know which game.
No, it's still Nintendo. Nintendo is still popping.
Right? Okay.
That
Sega.
Switch is popping. I don't know about Sega no more, but Nintendo, that PlayStation, that Xbox,
right?
that's
Crash Bandicoot,
popping.
that was my game.
Crash Bandicoot. They still make that? I don't know. But PlayStation is still fire. They talking about making another version of it, like a PlayStation 5 Pro.
Right. And then you got the
You know what I'm saying? Like we ain't getting enough of the 5. We barely just got our hands on the 5. Now they're coming up with another a Pro.
And you're going to buy it.
I don't play games. 10 years ago, I'd have brought it. I'd have had all three of them. I was Biggie Small, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. I wanted them all. Yeah. I don't play them no more. Yeah. I got pricier shit to buy.
Better investments.
Investments at this point.
That makes me think of a book I was just reading called Think Again by Adam Grant. He was talking about the creator of WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. It was a time where everybody was like, instant messenger is dead. Remember AOL?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he capitalized. Mm-hmm. He just made it a little bit more flexible. He called it WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is one of the leading instant messenger apps out there because we're connecting nationwide. You got people from other countries. Yeah, globally. Yeah. And the next part he was talking about was Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs did not want to come out with a cell phone. He did not want a phone. He was like, no, I don't want a phone because it was the iPod and then the next stage was the phone. And the younger people were like, we want a phone. And he was just like, no. You know how the Apple
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't want a phone.
I did not know that.
But check this out. You know how Apple, anytime they come out with an upgrade, it's always one thing, right? It's like, so we added one new feature. That was the thing. So it went from an iPod to one feature, the phone. Then the next feature. That's how Steve Jobs took change. He struggled with flexibility. And his team had to push him in one thing at a time. Okay, so we make it a phone. Then we give it colors. Then we change the style. And that's why every year, it's like, Samsung would just hit you with a whole upgrade every week. Hey, new upgrade, here you go. Apple be like, no, wait till September. Wait till September. And that is their operation model. And I was like, you never think about what flexibility can do for you. He did not want that phone. And they was like, okay, you know what? Give it some time. One feature at a time. Because he didn't feel people wanted a computer in their pocket. And then once the younger people started, because it was a time where everybody's emails was all over the place. You couldn't do email on the phone. You had to check email on the computer. And if you wanted a phone, you had to have a different email address. Remember Sprint? Sprint email address, then your AOL email. You couldn't connect the two. And then they started to think, people want to see their emails. How can we do that? One feature at a time. And now, you know, when you think about Apple, why we got to wait till September? Because that's their operation model.
You know what's crazy about that part, too? When you think of it, Android definitely feeds us like
every minute
a bunch of shit at the beginning. And you think of Apple, it took y'all almost like 10, 15 years just to get widgets. Like we had widgets from the beginning. Right. If you're an Android user, they just got widgets,
and they're just working on the charger piece. They are officially going over to a C port when everybody had a C port.
Yeah, and I don't think Apple. They wanted to do that either. That was by force. Because in Europe they sued and was like, you can't do that. Like that's the
wow.
Yeah, that was by force.
I wonder which company's more profitable.
That was something I recently asked.
I would think Apple. That's a $1 trillion company.
In this time too, it's such a, you know, it was a time where we could just answer it like, boom, Steve. But when you think about the fluctuation of this economy, that's like, you know, you could have asked us a couple in pandemic, who's the richest person? We would have been like, oh, the Pharaoh, Jeff. Now you ask those questions because of the changes in the economy. Jeff out here losing money left and right, and he's not that man. I think the richest person is the guy from Louis Vuitton right now.
Bernard.
How? Yeah, can you imagine? We went from Jeff Bezos, the Pharaoh, to Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, well, you know, they've been rich for a long time. You know, I mean, count a couple billion, you know, we ain't there yet. We down
and he started off in small, flexible changes. That was a book company. Yeah. And now, look, we went from books to he's in our minds.
Yeah, I want to go to the next thing. And we were talking, I think I seen one of your presentations, and you was talking about the minorities and how in New York City, I think it was about 26% of business are minority business owners, 26%. But you wanted to stress the fact that out of that 26% of businesses that are minority owned, it's only 2% of black people.
Yeah, and those numbers are like pre-pandemic. So I could imagine what the numbers are now. And really, that 2% number is what we're like that in almost anything. When you think about, if you look at how many contracts are awarded to black businesses, it's around that 2% number. It's always around that low number, like in almost everything. And so I think that's also a challenge, you know, when we talk about this thing, the concept of minority or people of color, you're not identifying yourself. And so you're not, you know, if you say minority, minorities are doing 26%, but if you really dig deeper, blacks are less than that.
Why do you think it's like that?
Multiple layers. How are we going to answer that question? Real, right? It's the barbershop. Real, real talk, right?
Holy hell.
Man, it's a lot to that. I mean, I think there's historical challenges, right? Ancestral challenges, right? There's capacity issues. I mean, I feel like in people, we need a new generation that's going to step up and be the implementers, you know, just for lack of a better words. Like, we really need people to just step up. We need to do more of this. Like, we need more people applying for those contracts. We need to hold agencies in the private sector accountable when folks aren't getting those contracts. And then we have to build the capacity of our organizations and our small businesses to make sure that you qualify for those contracts. So there's multiple layers. And then, you know, holding them accountable. Stop letting year after year go by when you're still at a 2% number.
What does holding somebody accountable look like in that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, public participation, civic participation is really important. We lost that. Our generation lost that, you know, and it's not our fault. I think, you know, we grew up, I mean, when I think about like the first thing I learned about history in public school here was like Dr. Martin Luther King. Like, I think that's my early, I don't know, y'all tell me, what was your earlier memory of history? And it's Martin Luther King. That's Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we started.
That's where we started.
It's like where we started. It's where we started and where we.
That's what Black History began.
It's like that's where we started. That's where we finished.
1960.
We started and that's where we finished. Like
Right?
I teach and I was teaching the kids about Medgar Evers and they was like, who? And I was like, huh? You know Martin? Do you know Medgar? And they was
I
like,
learned about Medgar Evers later. I think I learned about Medgar Evers in college. That's
Only thing I'm gonna say.
unfortunately.
I went to PS 123. I actually worked in Medgar Evers College.
and I'm pretty sure nobody even knows.
Yeah, shout out to
Shout out to
Medgar.
Cutie.
Yeah, shout out to Cutie. Good God.
Yeah, you know that's the least they could do, right?
Yeah, I
you
know,
know we
maybe.
done go to Baruch, who's a white mathematician. The least we can do is go to a black man. That's the least they can do.
I'm gonna shout out PS 123 because we had a teacher named Mrs. Childs,
Okay.
and she lived through through that civil rights movement. When she said she met Malcolm X and Martin Luther King,
Nice.
and she taught us all that, the H. Rap Brown, the Martin Luther Kings, and people of that nature. So that's the only reason why I kind of knew some of those people beforehand.
Thank God for good teachers.
Yeah.
You know, I was saying so when we think about the civil
Thank
rights
God for
movement,
black teachers.
That's a fact.
that's a fact.
Oh
Super
my God.
fact. That too. But when we think about the civil rights movement, right? The civil rights movement, they were fighting for political power, right? And at the time, the conversation was leveraging our political power for what? For economic independence. Right? So now, 50 plus years later, we're still having that conversation.
Yeah.
And we got the political power. Yeah, you got your first black president, first black this, first black, blah, blah, blah. Now what?
We still at 2%. That's what we went from 1 to 2.
You know?
I was saying to somebody like, in this age, what would that bus boycott really look like? We be arguing like, no, I'm getting on my feet.
And see,
Wow.
so I disagree with the tactics. I'm sorry, why you're gonna get mad? Some people are gonna get. Why are we marching? What are we marching for?
I could believe it because, like I said, imagine the bus boycott right now. Like 5 of us be like, we not getting on. By the time the bus come, bye y'all, I'm getting on the bus. Like somebody done argue. Like we gotta be honest. Like
I meant like marches, but boycott. So one thing. So protesting against certain injustices. Yeah, how we do it, I think it's different. But so going back to this point, okay, how do we change that?
Yeah.
Right. You have people in office, right? So why are we not holding them accountable and being consistent, right? It's one thing to say, we just had a community town hall yesterday. We'd love for you guys to come to the next event. Just it puts it in context and you get a chance to see who's showing up, right? And who's being vocal and what questions are being asked. So I organized this meeting. So I have an organization called the Economic Leadership Council. So it's a network of global leaders with a desire to drive social transformation and innovation through shared content and engagement. So we host events to create a new space, a safe space for new discussions. Yeah. So it's not the typical thing. It's not your typical, it's not your church meeting. It's not your community board meeting. It's real talk, at a somewhat serious or, level, grassroots and academic level. And so I organized that event because I went overseas. I think we wanted to talk about Africa. So I ran for office during the pandemic. I came in 4th place. I ran a grassroots campaign. We signed up. We had almost 400 individual donors in the pandemic. We raised over $25,000 in a 3-month period. And then we have matching funds. So it was matched at, we really raised over $100,000. And we were able to sign people up to vote, get people out to vote, and try to launch and run for political power at the local city level. And so we came in 4th place. And then
Hold on. Can we get a congratulations for that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't that's phenomenal right there to do that. My hat's off to you on that one. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we want to support you in every way about that. Like that's not easy thing to do.
It wasn't easy putting yourself out there, but it was during the pandemic. It was a lot happening here. Our district, Southside, was a hot spot. Before the world knew what the pandemic was, what COVID was, we were dealing with it right here in New York. They shut down New York before they shut down other places across this country. And so we were dealing with that first hands on, and then a lot of people died, right? God bless, rest in peace to everyone's
Yeah.
family and friends
Yeah.
who passed during that. You know, I lost an aunt and I lost a stepfather
man,
during
sorry
that
to hear that.
process. And I worked in the legislature, and it was like we had to collect names and we had to do check-ins at the time. So we had to do check-ins, check in on the community. Hey, how you doing? We just want to make sure you're okay. And the names started coming in of the people that was passing away, and we had to send condolence letters to the folks that passed away. The names started rolling in so fast, I couldn't keep up at one point. Between that March and May in 2020, we just could not keep up. And then you remember seeing the videos of the bodies outside Queens Hospital and things like that. Was very traumatic. You know,
my
you
God.
talk about trauma and
Yeah.
things, you know. And so I wanted to do something like, okay, how do we need new political leadership. We need new voices at the table to navigate these resources. Because man, we ran out of toilet paper and grits.
Oh, I remember. They were showing can't spare a square.
We ran out of food, y'all.
Yo.
Like,
in a country that's supposed to be well off. You know what I'm saying? A first world country, we running out of toilet paper.
so
Nuts.
I wanted to be in a position where I had access to the resources and know how to get the resources, not just for myself personally and my family, but my community. And so that's why I ran.
See, I didn't even know you lost that. That's a lot. Your stepfather. How are you going through a whole campaign and dealing with that? Did you go through like counseling or something like that, or?
Yeah, I did. I did go to counseling. I had to. Well, it wasn't until, unfortunately, I had a cousin who was murdered.
Oh man.
That in June, right? And it was sad because everyone was dying from COVID, and like he was like murdered, and so it was like that was just so fucked up for me. It was like my brother, and so that kind of hit me deep. So I had to. I was gonna stop my campaign actually because I had this vision. I had this vision of I couldn't imagine doing that campaign without him.
Wow.
So and I didn't even officially launch. I don't think at the time, and then he was murdered, and so that. For me, that was like, he was, and everybody in my family, he was the one that we were going to do, we were going to be the ones to do this for our family. And then, like, that was kind of taken away from me.
Your big anchor of support and stuff like that.
He was like, yeah, he was my guy. Yeah, so.
Man, I'm really sorry to hear that one. I wasn't even expecting that.
So yeah, me neither. So yes, I did go to therapy. I had to go to therapy, and I think anybody and everybody should go to therapy because they just help you kind of put things into perspective. And you don't have to go all the time, but just talking to a professional. And you could talk to your friends and things like that, but sometimes you really need a professional to understand psychology and can help you navigate your challenges.
Oh no, I agree. I go to therapy every week.
Okay. Oh yeah.
I'm in.
God bless.
I'm an entrepreneur right now. And entrepreneurs, I think, need therapy, if not more, because what you go through when you go through this experience, it's especially at the beginning when nobody sees your vision and you got to work through extra. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you you would know, but a lot of people give up. Primarily just because that they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to deal with their emotions and stuff.
Right.
You up 1 minute, you down the next because you done lost tens of thousands of dollars and you make because of some little error you made, and you got to figure out how to navigate that back. And you got your family who you put more hours into your business than you dealing with your family and stuff like that. These are things that entrepreneurs go through, and this is why I think everybody who's going on this path of being a financial leader, you need somebody to talk to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You need to.
And I think to add to what you're saying is like because you're also breaking generational curses in many ways, probably.
Yeah.
So you got.
So there's resistance right there. Your family's gonna resist you. You don't even and it comes out in ways. It may not even be verbal. It be, you know what I'm saying? It be you supposed to you need a babysitter. I can't watch that no more because I got to do what I got to do. Right. Or they seeing you move, they seeing you doing your thing. So now it starts tricking in their mind. I need to start doing something too. And as opposed to just supporting this one thing here, let me get on, and then let me help you when you wish your dreams and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, that's the thing. Look, a campaign, I have to sell myself. I gotta sell. I gotta convince you to vote. I gotta convince you to come to these events. Why this is important?
Yeah.
You know, for us.
Yeah.
You know, and then so. And some people didn't support, but a lot of people did. You'd be surprised because the people that you think would support don't, and the people you don't think would support would. Let me tell you the best thing that happened to me. The barbershop on 142. The guys from barbershop, they all just came, and I didn't expect them to. Wow. I don't even think a lot of them was even registered to vote.
Yeah.
But they donated. You know, $25, $50 here, Toya. We proud of you. And then people, you know, in an establishment, they were like, how are you running? And I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm going to classes and I'm signing up for different trainings, political trainings here, and, you know, I'm going to do it. You know, and I went forward. And they said, who's going to help you? I said, my community. They said, who's your community?
Well,
I said,
like
the
to hear
people.
that.
Like, the people. Like, they're not, but they don't know you're not a part because you're not a part of the church. You're not a part of the sororities. You're not a part of the monthly meetings in the community. They don't see your faces, so they don't know you exist. Or think that they exist, right? So I said, I have them. They like, tuh. Yeah, and then they saw, right? So that those people, that grassroots, got us into 4th place against this whole
Stiff
city.
competition. Yeah.
out of 10 candidates, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's.
So shout out to the barbershops.
Shout out to the barbershop. Shout out to the churches.
Churches, yeah,
You know,
the small businesses too.
Small businesses.
Yeah.
You like you said, you don't know who's going to support until you really put it out there, and it's like that. If you build it, they will come thing.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? My sister, she was on the board of what?
Yeah, I was a Senate for CUNY.
But, oh, nice. The board of trustees kind of thing.
No, they have a student Senate organization.
Look at that.
And I was a Senate.
That's
I was
awesome.
a senator, yeah.
Girl.
And-
Right, still there?
No.
Oh, man, we need you. We need her back. CUNY, come on.
CUNY plan. CUNY plan. They
Going
better,
on,
you know what I'm
CUNY.
saying?
They're negotiating a contract with the state right now, and they're
And
trying to
that's-
increase diversity.
Yeah.
We might have to visit
You
that.
might have to go back and.
That's on record, right? I got to
If
make
they-
sure that.
yeah, that's on record. And then when they come back, they got to pay double now. Because where I'm at and where she at now is it's a
the
nice
price
spot.
went up,
Yeah,
right?
the price went up. You know what I'm saying? The price went up. You know, these are part of campaigns that help people get hired and diversity and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was a part of a hiring committee for one of the deans at one of the colleges. Yeah, one of the provosts, actually. But
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love CUNY. CUNY gave me an opportunity. I didn't want
I'm a
to.
CUNY baby.
Okay.
So. We all CUNY
Right,
babies
there
here,
you
so
go.
you know.
I think we're doing very well.
Yes. Very well. Talk about your trip to Africa. Because you went to Africa some time ago, and it was an initiative in East Africa. Can you break that down for me?
Yeah. So after the campaign, so the campaign ended in February. I started to consult. My grandmother was also sick. She got sick, as well. So I was kind of navigating that a lot with this whole pandemic.
Man.
And so I was invited in May, short notice. I had a 2 days notice that I got invited by a friend of mine, who was a part of a company that was hosting an economic development conference. And they were looking for folks from the diaspora to go back to Africa to partake in this conference because their belief, they were acknowledging the 100-year anniversary of Black Wall Street. And a lot of people in Africa never heard of Black Wall Street. So they were saying they were looking at Black Wall Street as a model, and they were saying they want people from the diaspora to come back to help them industrialize Africa, because from their perspective, we have a better understanding of capitalism and white supremacy. So we have that understanding, and Africans, the African continent doesn't really look at capitalism or don't really understand capitalism. And so they were looking for 10 people on a 2-day notice, full paid for flight there, back, hotel reservations, the whole thing. And so it was 3 of us that went. And it was an amazing experience. It was the first time. I'm from Southside.
What?
So this is my first time in my lifetime in the continent, and so that was an amazing experience, just there. And I believe, and I was in Uganda, and I think Uganda is Wakanda. Most reasons. Even if you look at the Black Panther movie, if you see where they in the beginning, when you see where it drops, it looks like it's Uganda. If you guys look on the map, it's East Africa, and I say that for many reasons. Even the Nile River, still like the food was so fresh. Like I was eating fish and I thought it was chicken.
Damn.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I said, this is fish.
It's
the
clean.
bananas, you get the bananas off the tree.
That's
They that fresh, and so we were there. We were supposed to be there for a week, had an amazing time. And then the day we were supposed to fly home was a Friday. I'll never forget. The day we were supposed to fly home, the pandemic hit for the second time, and they shut down all of the ingoing and outgoing flights.
Wow.
So my 1 week trip turned into a 4-month experience.
4 months.
We were stuck in Africa. We had to move out of the hotel and get an apartment in Kampala.
4 months.
So I was in Africa.
4 months. Yo, I thought you were about to say 2 weeks, 3, 4 months.
No.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy during the pandemic. So, we didn't get a chance to do a lot of tourist stuff, but things were locked down. But, had an opportunity to do a lot of content development out there. And I'm excited because they leverage technology. See, developing countries, they kind of lack the brick and mortar infrastructure that we're used to here in America. But everybody got a cell phone.
Yeah.
And mobile money.
Yeah.
FinTech. So I'm doing things and I'm watching this and I'm like, whoa, I'm like, Africa is going to grow fast just off of this, just off of the tech piece alone.
Yeah.
And then so when we talk about going back to economic development, community development, right? Well, how about I'm excited about reopening up that conversation because another reason why other cultures and communities are still successful within their community. One is there is a community. We have to define what community means within the Black diaspora. That's a different conversation, right?
Yes.
But then, they also practice cooperative economics. They still do trade back into their native land. They're doing business here, but they're doing trade as well in their country, right? When you talk about the Black diaspora, how are we doing business with the continent of Africa that has most of the natural resources, right? So we don't,
all of them almost. They can survive on their own at this point if they wanted to, but they would be exploited by other developed countries. But yeah.
Yeah, so we can have that conversation. You can train a group of kids in Africa about how to do a podcast just and teach them how to build a platform and launch their platform, their campaign for their issues. We can't assume that they know how to do it.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna look at you from New York, Black man from New York, barbershop. We want to do this.
Oh, I can show you how to do that. I can do that. If you got an idea, let me know. I'll definitely help you develop that. Like that's what I want to do is my way of giving back or being a part is just seeing young people full of energy, wanting to do something. No, I want to be a part of that. I don't even gotta, I ain't gotta own it. I ain't gotta, I just want to help it grow.
Yeah, and so they were looking for talented people like yourselves to come out there and have this conversation. And so that was interesting. And we were there for 4 months and then, we came back. When I came back, everything was different. I mean, everything was different. It took me, I don't know if this is how people feel when they go to the military or something, but it's like just coming back home was like a different world because Cuomo was going. I don't know if you guys, the governor was going.
I remember
what the
that.
heck happened to the I said, what happens to the
Oh,
governor?
being a pervert.
I said, oh my God. And yeah, so I came home and then the whole pandemic, this COVID vaccine thing, which I was disappointed about. I was disappointed about the mandates. I was disappointed that I felt that the community didn't speak up enough about the mandates. And what I call them was economic sanctions. So it's one thing if you choose to, make a decision for the best interest of your health. It's another thing to tell me I'm going to lose my job and lose my school and lose my social activities and not be allowed to go into public facilities if I don't. Those are economic sanctions. And so that was something that
He wasn't a big proponent of.
that I was vocal about, but unfortunately, I mean, people, when I got back, the consensus was that this was something that was kind of okay. Because when I was in Africa, they had the mandates, they had the lockdowns, but people weren't dropping dead. From, and I'm in the town, I'm in the market, and you wash your hands, and the country doesn't even have a proper waste management system. So if COVID was that severe, like in terms of contact, I think a lot of people in Africa would be dead. And they had simple water and soap in the bin. You wash your hands and you go into the market. You wear your mask and you do your safety procedure. And there's no social distancing in Africa. There was no social distancing in New York City. If you think about it, how are you going to social distance the subway?
Oh, once the summer came out, the block was hot. I knew that. I remember telling you that. I think I was picking up my daughter one day. I was like, soon as summer hit, everybody out on the block. They ain't working. They got that liquor in their hand. They like, yo, we out here. Like, what? They getting free money and then got to go to work? Yeah, we good. There's one thing that I wanted to speak about before I forget. There was another survey, study that you was speaking on about about banking and how different brothers and sisters are treated as opposed to their white male or female counterparts. And I think when I was looking at the study, you were saying how the bank officer was asking questions, and one of the questions was, there's two entrepreneurs. There's a black one, there's a white one. Should I let you explain it better?
Oh, yeah. So this was a study that Rutgers University did, where they did a blind study with two applicants, one black, one white, and they went into the financial institutions with the same credit profile. And they saw the disparity, they saw what happened, the outcomes of what happened between each applicant. So, this one was interesting. So, thank you for coming. So they factored different factors. Information requests by bank officer. So the information that the bank asks, the teller asks the applicant, they ask questions like that. Encouragement and assistance was another metric, and then marital status. So for the Caucasian, for example, even a thank you. I started with this.
Yeah.
A simple thank you for coming, and thank you for coming to our Chase or the bank. I'm not saying financial institution because they don't disclose that.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming to our bank. The Caucasian applicant was told thank you 96.2% of the time. The black applicant was 80.8%. So we talk about inequity, disparity. You're not even getting the same thank you. Imagine your credit. Yeah. Credit, access to credit, access to capital, lines of credit.
You can't even get thank you. Meaning we don't want you here.
Another question that came up, which is important. These are little things, microaggression things that happens in these infrastructures, in these institutions, and that's where the barriers exist. The barriers lie within these institutions. That's why we need diversity and folks like your sister behind the scenes in these institutions to watch out. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And to make sure things like that aren't happening, right? So the other question I thought was interesting that's illegal is that they ask you whether your partner or spouse is married. They ask the white applicant 0% of the time, and they ask the black applicant 11% of the time. Wow. And what's really major about that is that, I don't know if people know that, when you think about black women are the largest unmarried ethnic group, right? So if you're asking a black entrepreneur if she's married, knowing that statistic, and you're measuring her credit worthiness, is what they call it, based off of if she's married or not, you're already putting us at a lower level. Right? Because majority of the time she's probably not married, and if she is, maybe not all the time, but maybe she's the breadwinner of her household. Yeah. So these are disparity questions, right? And it shouldn't. And
it also goes to the understanding that we don't make the same on the dollar. Like if you even overstand that, what they're saying to you, you're bringing in less. Because remember, a white man he's getting paid the dollar, the black man 75%, the black woman is 60 cents. So when she walk in there and you making those, you already know, like, that's so sad.
Yeah.
When you know the worth of a person by that, you know, you automatically know that the worth of this person will never be as much as a white man because he's black, and y'all don't get paid the same amount. When you see a black woman walking in, you know we ain't worth that much because you know we're not getting dollar for dollar. You can't argue that.
Wage inequity is real.
Yeah. And people make those judgments just by looking at us.
And I wondered if they actually, you know, because I think one of them was like, you know, about personal financial. One that I found like real curious was the W-2s. For a white entrepreneur, they ask them 0% of the time. But for a black entrepreneur, they ask them 30% of the time. Like, so when a white person goes in there and he says he's a business owner, you don't even think he's working for somebody else. But when you see us, what you think, we moonlighting all the time? Or we, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but it goes back to that study. Remember that study you said, who gets, with the IRS, who gets audited more?
Black people.
So it goes back to that, like, you know, so it just becomes so, like, you know, entrenched in racism. Like, you know, we get audited the most, so let me ask them before we go any further. You got a W-2 because they're going to come after you. Like, that's sad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we know they coming. Just, you got it for your own sake.
Right.
You know,
It's sad.
I didn't read the whole study, but, you know, when I see some numbers like this, it makes me think this is partly why we don't have a good relationship with our banker.
Absolutely.
And before you go, I just wanted to say that was part of the reason I think also that like certain companies, certain like small businesses in the black community couldn't get business PPP loans because we don't have a relationship with them. You know what I'm saying? So for white people, they just went to the bank. Hey Rob, I need da. Can you just do that? All right, no problem. We gonna help.
And society makes it easier to trust. Think about Bernie Madoff. People are they willing to trust a nice looking white man. You know, they don't even think twice.
Yeah. You're right about that. I worked on that. We were the first ones to even host a forum on the PPP loan, working with the SBA. But two things with that. One is that that's where accountability comes in. We could do a better job. What I tell people is that you should know your banker the way you know your doctor.
Right. No, for real.
That's the type of relationship that you should have. You should know them by name. They got children where the kids go to school with them. That's the type of and it's the relationships that will change the dynamics of these numbers. You know, and it doesn't account for systemic and institutional racism and inequities that exist, but there's a part that we can play as people, as humanity.
No, I thought that was profound. And it was funny because when I was going to school at the time, my professor said the same thing. He was like, this was like right before the pandemic, because I think I was going to school right before the pandemic and during the pandemic. But he was just like, Professor McLaughlin, he was just like, he was a professor in Baruch, but he was like, you know, sometimes people take out a loan just because you want to have a relationship. And he was like, you think about this pandemic, that's what's going to happen. They talking about the PPP loans. And I was just like, it's so crazy how he brought that shit into the real world. You know what I'm saying? And it was a class that it was entrepreneurship.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? But it was a class that I was learning. And while this was happening, he was bringing it into the real world. And later on to see the effects of what happens when you don't have a banker compared to when you do have a banker. You know, it's worlds apart where, you know, you got to go through all these extra hula hoops to prove that you even have a business. And you're like, hold on, I'm selling shit for 10, 20 years.
Right.
I still got to prove that I got a business. How am I paying all this rent?
Right.
If I didn't have a business.
Right.
And they still want to act like, you know, you got to prove it to them and stuff like that. And it's unfortunate.
And we are the original entrepreneurs in this society, especially black women. Like, we was out here creating the foundation for y'all to, who was taking care of y'all? Like, it was us. Like, you know.
Latoya, This was a fun conversation.
Okay, cool.
It really was.
Thank you.
Jackie, you got anything to say?
No, I'm just all ears. I'm just excited. I love talking about Black economics.
You got anything to say, brother?
I was taking it all in. It was good to hear that perspective. I mean, my journey is similar to some points, but you know, it derails. But hearing it and understanding, like, it's like racism is like it's like air. You don't even know. You don't even know you inhaling it. You don't know you already involved in it. You know, it's just happening. And just hearing that, I'm thinking about my career. I kind of fall out of that statistics. I never went to college, but I don't fall into the statistics of someone who just has a high school diploma.
Yeah.
You know, but it's when I do watch it in traveling and living, I'm seeing like it's scary because it takes away it. When I came back, I think I maybe told you this, but when I came back from LA, it was very like I got to see lost hope, like despair.
Wow.
You know, like from a lot of people, it's like, oh man, it's a good thing you're back, B, but like, you know, we on our deathbed, you know, we only, and some of these guys are 20, 30 years old, but they're already checking out mentally. You know what I mean? So it's, when I heard you say that and just speaking on like traveling and everything, it's like, yeah, you get a taste of a different life. You get a taste of many other lives, and you see like, for us, yeah, we are expiring. You know, it's a very slow death. You know, and yeah, it's, you know, just hearing it kind of without any sense of humor, it validates what I thought this whole time. You know, like damn, like, you know, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
The guy's a sculptor. It's
Yeah, that
quite a
was
good
deep.
one. This man is an artist,
Appreciate
for
it.
real. You know what I'm saying?
Put down the shirt.
Yo, for real, that one kind of hit me, B. I'm not going to hold you. That one kind of hit me.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's like just hearing it. I'm just like, and I'm not one to really. I'm not really.
We don't want to think about this. Nobody wants to think about this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, but you know what I also wanted to say was, you know, I never cared about statistics. I try to avoid them. You know, because you get caught up on it. You going, well, yeah, based on that number. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
kind of get stuck. But some stuff I do have to pay attention to. But I do think it's almost like it feels like the judo for the war, the racial war is played at a different level now.
It's like the
oh,
tool.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's no longer blatantly physically assaulting you. It can be that, you know, like
Yeah, but that's lowbrow shit. You know what I'm saying?
I even think, you know, and quote me on this, but I think, you know, even those organizations that have employees, white employees that beat and maim black people, the leaders are probably going, we don't do that no more.
Yeah.
Like, why you, like, we'll send you home, we'll give you the pay, whatever, but bro, like, change your approach to how we handle this now. You know, like, it's a different game. But when I hearing you talk about this, Latoya, I'm thinking about like the things that I'm seeing being back home and just traveling, and I'm just like, it's the thank yous. You know, like when you said that, I thought about it, and I'm like, it's crazy how even just like if I wear a button up versus a t-shirt, you know, what that thank you embellishes, you know, like, and so I think about that even just, you know, in a barbershop, just getting a haircut, you know, it's like, you kind of have to be, especially as a black male, you have to be clean shaved almost all the time. And I'm talking about like damn near no hair on your face because you may intimidate the wrong person, you know, like, so it's weird. And then to have that upkeep, you need finances. So it's, you going from when barbershops were, you know, $5 to now $45, you know, on a
cut.
On a cool end. You know, so it's like, you know, I'm thinking about all that when you said it, and I'm like, damn, the thank yous. And I thought about how to obtain the greater thank you. That's all I kept thinking about was how does one obtain that? You know, like, and you'll start to fall into this, like I said, despair where you're going, I got to get money. How I get money? Damn, And the real currency, I'm gonna end it here, is time. You know, like I think most of us really don't. I think most of us, and I'm speaking for myself, don't go to college. One, because I don't have time to.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have the luxury of going. I can just be here for these years while this chaos happens in my home.
Yeah, you're in survival mode.
Yeah, you know, so
You're trying to survive.
so all those things are taking effect. Meanwhile, you have to eat, you have to do this, and you still want to live life. You're still gonna have your selfish endeavors. You still want to go to the party, whatever. But when you do look back 4 years from that time, you go, oh, I could have went, you know. But then there's that coulda, woulda, shoulda aspect. But I think it's the time it's a numbers game of time, and you have other races going, well, we can afford to sleep for 2-3 years. We can afford to sleep 10 years, and blacks still won't catch up to us. You know, so yeah,
Damn, man. I'm saying no. I felt man.
Yeah.
Did you feel that? Like
That's the truth.
You know what I'm saying? I'm good, B. I can fuck up 3 times and still, you know, and that's the issue with the entrepreneur a lot of times, where it's like, you hear like a story of an entrepreneur or one of these super successful entrepreneurs. They fucked up 3-4 times.
Yeah.
They went to the bottom. They had a company. They failed. They pivoted. They changed this. Black people don't have the affordability to fuck up.
Too many times.
You know what I'm saying?
You got that type of
which is why, like, for black entrepreneurs, I feel the first thing that should be taught is time management.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not money comes and goes. As long as you're living, you'll make money. You can walk down the street and make $1, but time itself is
I agree with you. You know what else I think too? It goes back to this work. I think if business owners and the entrepreneurs, and I don't think you don't have to go to college. I wish now what I know now, if I would have knew this 10 years ago, you know, I wasn't even worried about this long. But I'm not discouraging college. You know, it's an amazing thing to learn, to always learn, be in learning mode. You don't have to go to college to always be in learning mode. But what I do say is, if black entrepreneurs get more civically engaged, then we could create those outcomes. I think about every mafia movie or any business movie or any type of major deal goes down. There's always a politician in the room. There's always somebody in the room, and I don't think we've developed that relationship politically and civically to know how to leverage, and so that's a part of the work that I do. Like it's political power for economic gain. It's not to be talking points and make you. This is your constitutional right.
Right.
And we gotta make it work, but I gotta know how to work it, and I gotta show you, and I gotta teach you, and then we keep this thing going.
Or if it's not in your favor, bless you. If it's not in your favor, you get politicians to change the rules to make it your favor, i.e., Uber.
There you go. See that?
You know what I'm saying? Because Uber was not accepted here in New York City. You know what I'm saying? And then what they did, they get lobbyists because they got the financial backings from investors and capital investment and stuff like that, and push their agendas to change the laws to allow that business to be conducted during that time.
Absolutely, and that's how you do it. And you don't need major. The church could do it if we had a organized church. Well, we don't want to go into that conversation, do we? If our churches, this is what what do you think the synagogues do? They practice faith, but they talk business too.
Yeah, they got they got big.
They got
big
influence.
voting blocks.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to reimagine how our
churches,
faith.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it's our generation, and what you guys are doing, and thank you for having me and having a conversation. Hope I wasn't all over the place.
No, this was entertaining. Like I was
a little too deep. I don't know.
Latoya.
Do you have any handles?
Yes. So our organization, Economic Leadership Council, economic_leadership_council_ on Instagram, Economic Leader 2 on Twitter. And then my name is Latoya Benjamin.
Latoya Benjamin.
It will be in the description below.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate it. Can I get one more round of applause? Thanks for asking. This is the Thanks for Asking show. We out.
All right.